Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo, and this is 3 Book Theater. Hopefully, one of your many trustworthy news sources for movie news and commentary on the internet. And today, we're going to be talking about Godzilla vs. King Kong. Has a writer's room now. That's this article. It's a very simple article, but it's one I did want to touch on because I also want to take a minute to gloat. Now, none of you know this, but my friends in San Diego know this. In 2014, right before the release of Godzilla from Legendary and Warner Brothers, Legendary was currently in the process of basically moving away from Warner's, right? And there had been talks about them going to Universal. Now, I used to work at a movie theater, so all we did is talk movies and video games, but mostly movies. And during that time, when that was coming up, I turned to a friend of mine and I said, dude, if they go to Legendary, if Legendary goes to Universal, right? Universal's got King Kong. Legendary's got Godzilla. I'm like, King Kong versus Godzilla is coming. That's fucking coming. And that's that's a thing. And this was in 2014. Now, keep in mind that in 2014 at Comic-Con, they also announced Kong Skull Island. And I believe Godzilla 2, maybe it was also announced at that same time. And so, Warner's at the time was banking on this. And, you could see with Kong Skull Island and Legendary, you knew what was coming. And then last year they announced King Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus King Kong. So that is why something like this is important. Not that I'm right. I mean, it is important that I'm right, but only to me. I'll admit that. I'm egotistical like that. But this is the cinematic universe, the shared cinematic universe, in my opinion, to ultimately end all other shared cinematic universes. All right. And the reason why I say this is because this movie has essentially already been made before. Back in the day, they had King Kong versus Godzilla. It exists. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's a fun movie. And so bringing these two people together, or these two people, they're not people, they're monsters. Bringing these two monsters together is such an interesting concept. But here's what the article says. Kong Skull Island is already headed towards a big opening weekend at the box office. Although audiences are pumped to see this reintroduction to one of the most iconic beasts in cinematic history, fans are already anticipating the brawl of the century, Godzilla vs. King Kong. Legendary Pictures has now assembled a writer's room for the much-anticipated film. Terry Rossio, who is known for his work on Pirates of the Caribbean movies, is set to head the writer's room, which will include Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne, who did Star Trek Beyond, Lindsay Beer, who did the King Killer Chronicles, Kat Vesco, Queen of Air, T.S. Nowlin, the Maze Runner series, and Pacific Rim Uprising, and J. Michael Straczynski, who did World War Z and Sense8. Now, here's the thing. Terry Rossio, yes, co-wrote the first screen. I think the first 3 films of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. He also worked on Shrek, and so this guy understands big budget, large scale situations, right? Especially Pirates of the Caribbean. Granted, the plot line for the 3rd movie was convoluted as fuck, but it was some major set pieces in that movie. So clearly, there is some, he has a grasp on kind of at least the groundwork for a story like this. The other people, Lindsay Beer and Kat Vesco and T.S. Nowlin. No, T.S. Nowlin I understand, but the other two, I don't know what they've done. The King Killer Chronicles and Queen of the Air both sound to me like young adult novels that are being turned into movies. But T.S. Nowlin doing the Maze Runner series, those have both been very good and smartly written, in my opinion. I really enjoyed the first Maze Runner. I thought it was going to be another dumb YA adaptation, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised with both of those films, and I'm looking forward to the final film. Also, Pacific Rim Uprising, which is one of the most anticipated movies I have for next year, so I really want to see what happens with that. J. Michael Straczynski, the dude, come on, Babylon 5. I don't need to say anything more than that. Bab 5, okay? This dude knows how to write, and again, he's done a lot with science fiction. He's done a lot, with that kind of genre, so he can craft these kind of stories. Now, I don't know what they're going to do to bring him together. I haven't seen Kong Skull Island. I'm seeing that in the morning. So I will be doing a review of that movie. But when I saw Godzilla back in 2014, I thought to myself, how can this become part of a cinematic universe? It's not framed like that at all. You know, the Mutos show up, they tear apart Vegas and San Francisco. Godzilla shows up, fucks their day up, then returns back to the ocean from whence he came, right? And everyone's like, what the fuck happened? There's huge ass monsters here. Now we've got Kong Skull Island, which takes place approximately 40 years prior to King Kong, or to Godzilla. So if it's like 40 years prior, what the fuck has Kong been doing all that time? Because the Kong in this movie is way bigger than Kong from Peter Jackson's movie from fucking 12 years ago or 11 years ago. You know, it's way bigger than anything that's ever been done before in terms of Kong. So they're trying to make him a very comparable size to Godzilla. Now, what I'm thinking is this. Okay, because here's the thing with the writers' room too, is they're not the only ones to do this. Like Transformers right now has a writers' room over at Paramount. So it's not like these guys are sitting there all working on the same movie, because that is too many cooks in the kitchen for just one concept. This is literally building the universe of monsters, right? And Universal is also trying to get like the Mummy and, you know, Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman. They're trying to make that their own cinematic universe. So they're trying both, right? And honestly, I don't know how well the Mummy with Tom Cruise is going to do come May when it comes out, but I'm definitely curious to see what's going to happen with Godzilla versus King Kong, because you know that Godzilla 2 is coming, I think 2018. And then 2020 is Godzilla versus King Kong. So clearly, Terry Rossio and the crew, they're going to be setting the table for what's going to come in Godzilla 2. Now, I've heard some stuff about King Kong tying into Godzilla. I don't know how yet, but I've heard stuff about that. And so clearly setting the stage there. Okay, so who can Godzilla fight? In the sequel, Godzilla's probably going to end up fighting, you know, I wouldn't assume Mechagodzilla for a while, but maybe like Ghidorah, or Rodan, or fucking Mothra. Who doesn't want Mothra showing up? If they bring Mothra in, everyone's gonna lose their collective shit. All right. If Godzilla fights Mothra, but yeah, but I don't understand like how they're gonna connect the two together, because they're going to fight clearly, but you know they're going to team up, because essentially, and this is sounding so weird to say out loud, is they're both basically good dudes, right? King Kong just wants to keep to himself. Mankind shows up, basically fucks his day up. He has to go push their shit in like the true alpha that he is. Godzilla wants to keep the world safe from Mutos, doesn't give a shit about fucking property damage, just goes and but he fights back. So these are both two, all things considered, good dudes. And they're going to have to go up against some seriously heavy shit, because they're going to be bros. Like, you know, they're going to be bros. And they're going to have to find a way to tell those stories from the human perspective. Because, you know, neither one of them, they're not going to end up being like Riggs and Murtaugh in the Lethal Weapon series. You know, like Kong's not going to go, I'm too old for this shit, and then while trying to beat the shit out of fucking Mothra. You know, it's like, it's just not going to happen. But there's going to have to be other kind of monsters, because it can't all be Godzilla creatures, right? It can't all be Godzilla Kaiju. So I'm thinking either they're going to start trying to work on new original monsters, which would probably lead, you know, when they brought in T.S. Nowlin, who worked on Pacific Rim Uprising, which is, again, dealing with Kaiju. So there is definitely kind of a take from that. Like, this person has some experience. So I have a feeling when it comes to maybe creating new Kaiju, that's what they're going to intend on doing. But anyway, I could probably speculate all damn day about this. This is a franchise I am very happy to see coming down the pipeline, and one that I'm very curious to know what is going to happen next. But I do want to know your thoughts on this. Do you think that this particular franchise, this cinematic universe of monsters, is going to work? Or do you think it's going to tank? If so, for either or, why? I'm curious. Also, if you're as excited as I am for it, let me know. I just want to know where my fellow fucking King Kong lovers and Godzilla heads are at. Anyway, my name is Matt Jarbo. This has been 3 Buck Theater. Be sure to thumbs up the video. Subscribe if you're new. Definitely comment. I'll talk with you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day, and peace out.